Hey, church family. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. As you can see, we're out here at our PGH West location. We've just been doing some cool recording for this weekend. I'm so thankful. I don't know about you. I'm so thankful for our team that has stepped up in this season to creatively proclaim Jesus and keep us up to date with things. And God's been truly kind to us with the leadership with Nolan and Grace and Michaela and Jake and everybody online. Just want to give them a shout out and thank them for all the hard work that they're doing. Tonight we wanted to take a few moments before we check out a special time. We've been kind of doing this faith, hope, and love at home. I want you to know a couple things that are coming. We're about to have an interview. Annabeth and I sat down with Pastor Dustin Turner, who's the lead pastor of Vintage Church, and his wife, Rachel Turner. They're some of our best friends in all the world. And we just continue this theme of faith, hope, and love. God's been kind of challenging us and speaking to us in this season about continuing this movement of encouraging people with faith, hope, and love at home. And so you'll hear more about this in the future, but we're actually building a podcast, and this podcast is going to be something that Annabeth and I host. It's called This House is Home. And I've already reached out to friends really all over the country, inviting them to sit down with us and through Zoom, through technology, just share some encouragement. We want to continue this faith, hope, and love at home into seasons beyond our last sermon series. I know I was encouraged by that. This past Mother's Day, special edition Mother's Day takeover of Faith, Hope, and Love at home was amazing. Shout out to all the ladies who were part of that, and I know that you were encouraged too. One of the main things that we wanted to share with you in regards to just our future is our reopening phase. We are going to be talking over the next couple weeks of how we are going to adjust and start flowing into, honestly, a new normal. And we're making sure to seek out the wisdom of leaders really all across the country, especially in our state, on a number of conversations with pastors in Pittsburgh and across the state of Pennsylvania who are communicating to our governor the importance of our churches being prioritized as part of this reopening phase in our state. But I want you to know, everything is being soaked in prayer. And at the end of the day, I'm not really interested in what you want, what I want. I want what Jesus wants. And we want to listen to Jesus and do what he says as we move to this future. You'll find on this post a graphic that we've put together explaining our reopening plan. In phase one, guys, is going to be basically this coming Sunday over the next 3 weeks. And this is what we're going to do together. We're going to enjoy our movement sermon series. I can't wait. This Sunday, we are doing a joint worship experience with our church family in New Orleans. And so you don't want to miss this. Spread the word. When you see it on social media, share it with as many friends you can. It's going to be incredible. In just a few moments, you're going to hear Pastor Dustin and myself even talk about what we're excited about with regards to our movement. We're going to keep having online worship on Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll continue to have vGroup on Facebook Live on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And then, of course, we're going to continue our Send Relief ministry together through our community meals, outreach with Pittsburgh Food Bank, and then delivering care packages to people who are in need. That's phase one. That'll be the next 3 weeks. As we go into the summer, it'll start phase two for our church. And phase two is going to be a little bit different. We're going to open ourselves up to the possibility of maybe having some more frequent gatherings, maybe even letting a limited amount of people come back in. But here's kind of the game plan. We're going to do a summer series together. We're going to continue online worship on Sundays at 10 a.m., but we're going to add a 6 p.m. time because as we go back to everything being wide open, we're going to start moving our PGH City location to Sundays at 6 p.m. So we're going to have 2 times where you can gather and worship with us online. There will be limited in-person gatherings. We're going to try this summer over June and July to have 2 outdoor gatherings of some sort, whether it be an outreach event or a drive-in movie together or worship experience or whatever else. We're going to do 2 outdoor events together. We're going to continue our vGroup Facebook online with Facebook Live at 7 p.m. Our V-Kids ministry, listen, parents, we love you so much, and we are so thankful for all the hours and work that you're doing and your patience in this season. We got your back. We are going to ramp up what we're doing this summer with our kids ministry online. At this point, with the restrictions the way they are, it could be subject to change. We are not going to invite kids ministry back in the building during this phase 2. We're going to keep promoting our kids ministry to happen online. This is coming with a lot of advice and counsel from a number of other churches, and even after talking with a number of our parents. Lastly, we're going to continue our Send Relief ministry. I'm excited to introduce to you a new staff person that's coming in June that's going to be our Send Relief journeyman over the summer and as we transition into the next season and future. So that's phase 2. Phase 3, I like to call this season Who Knows? Who knows what's going to happen by August 16th? But phase 2 is going to be from June 7th to August 9th. Phase 3 will be August 16th. And guys, we're going to do a back-to-school sermon series, no matter what that looks like. And our prayer is that we would relaunch full on and off-campus ministry and worship. That's our prayer. I pray that you'll pray with us and believe that maybe that could happen. Now, I do want you to know that as we're moving forward together, we want every single one of these phases to have this understanding. We will be in full compliance with social distancing guidelines no matter what we do. All phases are going to be subject to change depending on CDC guidelines and government suggestions. And everything that we're doing online will continue through all these phases. So I just wanted to take those few moments to update you on our reopening plan. God's at work. He's doing amazing things. In just a few moments, after we have a little bit of a break here, we're going to begin our vGroup time tonight with Pastor Dustin Turner and Rachel Turner. I promise you, you're going to be encouraged and blessed. Please reach out to us if we can serve you in any way. Keep being faithful in your giving. You've been so incredible. And let's keep believing that together we're going to live the gospel, serve the city, and be the church. Talk to you soon. All right. Well, it is Wednesday night for our vGroup tonight. And as you guys can see, we have some special guests with us tonight. We have Dr. Dustin Turner, and the future Dr. Rachel Turner. Is that going to happen, Rachel?
First lady. No.
First lady.
Don't call me first lady.
The first lady. We've just had an awesome Mother's Day takeover of our Faith, Hope, and Love series, and we're going to continue with these Wednesday night kind of interviews where we really reach out to some of our closest friends and we just kind of talk a little bit about faith, hope, and love in our homes. We've kind of gone a little bit more public with this. This is a This House's Home podcast, and however long we're going to roll with this, we're just going to keep inviting some friends. So we're super excited to have Dustin and Rachel with us from our Vintage Church New Orleans family that we love and miss a ton. Tell us real quickly, like, how's it going with you guys in New Orleans, COVID-19, all this crazy season, and how's everybody with the church? We miss you.
Well, we miss you guys too. Things are good, I think, for the most part. We've had a few people within the church that have gotten sick, but everyone's recovered. A few church members with family members have passed because of it. And so we're ministering and caring to them. But it's been really cool, I think, in the life of Vintage right now to see so many people step up. We had a huge Easter where we took up over $25,000 for Second Harvest Food Bank, and now we're taking up food donations for them. And
Second Harvest is very similar to the Pittsburgh Food Bank and our partnership, and a lot of organizations partner with Second Harvest. They're a great organization in New Orleans.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is Entergy, which is like the energy company here in the New Orleans area, matched that gift. So we gave $25,000. They matched it. So our gift was basically like $50,000. And so it's been really cool to see that, to see a lot of people engage in our community. We have our vGroup the attendance right now for our vGroups is up. And last night we were literally having a meeting with some of our vision team members, and they were talking about seeing new people in their groups. And so it's really it's crazy to not see one another. You know, I shared last night with our vision team that it's weird for me because I feel like I have the least amount of control I've ever had. Mm-hmm. And for someone who's a control freak, that's a great thing. I need that in my life, right? But it's cool to see the Church of God be a movement, you know, and do what it does just naturally. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing right now in New Orleans and with Vintage Church. And that's for me, that's what's exciting right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know one of my favorite parts of every Sunday has been seeing how many people from New Orleans kind of will join our worship here, and then from Pittsburgh who are joining worship in New Orleans. Yeah. And we're going to kind of keep riding that wave as we go into this Sunday. We're going to kick off a brand new series called Movement, MVMT, and we're going to talk a little bit about our movement, how we're a movement of truth, love, and community. So I'm so excited to continue serving Jesus, living the gospel, serving the city, being the church in New Orleans, Pittsburgh, and beyond. And we hope that new cities will kind of show up. So we're really excited. God's done some amazing things in our series, Faith, Hope, and Love at Home. And it's been super fun to have my mom and dad on with us. And then Drew and Brittany Breeze were with us. And then Kevin and Lynette Ezel were also with us. And so we've been asking some questions just to get to know each other and talk a little shop. We don't want to get too deep. We want to be super practical, but I'll let Annabeth kick this off. I can't wait to get the answer for this first question.
Rachel, tell us in your version of the story, in your own words, how you guys met.
Okay. So we met, we're actually from the same small town in Ohio, but we didn't meet till I was in junior high, I think. I was a part of a church plant with my family, and Dustin started coming to it with one of his friends and played the trumpet on stage.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I was a hot band nerd.
Oh boy. And actually his best friend at the time was dating my sister. And so that's how we kind of started hanging out through that. And also it's kind of a funny story.
Is it?
It is. He really liked my best friend at the time. In love with her, essentially. And she would always pull me on these super awkward third wheel situations. They would be hanging out and she would drag me along because she didn't want it to feel like a date or something. So, but then I started liking Dustin and was like, well, shoot, I like him, but he likes her and she doesn't like him. What is happening here? And so, long story short, I put my flirt on, and he received it. So
it was heavy.
Rachel, we kind of share something similar. I mean, Dustin wanted to hang out with me all the time. That's why I kept inviting Brick. It was so awkward. I just man, Dustin keeps calling me, Brick, will you come and hang out?
Awkward sometimes, huh?
These
Third wheel.
So is that pretty accurate, Dustin?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. I wish I could go into how heavy the flirtations were, but I'll save that for another day.
It worked.
They did work. Hey. They did work.
Yeah. So how long have you guys been married?
This July will be 13 years.
13 years. And so
June will be 15 years together total.
That's awesome. And so shortly after you got married, how many years or how long after that did you move to New Orleans?
We were
1 year.
Yep.
We literally celebrated our 1 year anniversary and moved 3 weeks later.
Yep.
To New Orleans.
August 1st, 2008.
And so Dustin, real quick, your call to ministry, when did that happen, kind of as you came to New Orleans for seminary?
Yeah, I mean, I felt a call to ministry as like an 8th grader, and I think that was like a super general calling. You know, I think I'm called to ministry and called to pastor somehow. And I came to New Orleans because of what some people had recommended about New Orleans Seminary, and it was really two things in that season of time, probably from like, I don't know, 2008 to 2013 or so, where God was using my time at the seminary, and he was using my time at Vintage Church, you know, and it was those two things working together where I recognized kind of not only my calling, but also I think a lot of the ways in which I'm uniquely gifted. And it was really both of those, because I recognized there were some things that I needed the seminary for, that I could only learn at the seminary, right? And then there were other things that I recognized that I was uniquely learning at Vintage that I could not learn at the seminary.
So
And,
to kind of rewind before we get to all that though, I'll never forget you guys showed up at it was like our launch Sunday, wasn't it?
That was our first Sunday. Yeah.
September of 08?
Yeah, September of 08. If I remember, Rachel, you weren't like so fired up about New Orleans at the time. You were still kind of checking her out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel actually didn't even like Vintage. Rachel went to like one of the early small groups.
Yeah.
Maybe even 6 a day or something.
Yeah, no, it was like, it started super late, and then like we had to pay for food, and I didn't know till like after we ate, and then I was like, I don't have cash on me, like, oh my gosh. And then we got done really late and like got back home, and I looked at Dustin because they were talking about, I think it was Chaz. Oh man, like
Way back.
Yeah, Chaz Church.
And he was talking about like our leadership is having to make some like really big decisions coming up this week, because it was like, I think like the week before the launch Sunday. And I was like, nope, peace out. Like, I've been a part of a church plant before. I came home and I told Dustin, nope, like, I'm good. Let's go somewhere else. And then sure enough,
The rest is history.
the launch Sunday, we showed up at Vintage.
The rest is history. And so, you know, before we talk a little bit about call to ministry and even all the different hats you wore, what was exciting for us, and I kind of knew this, and Dustin, we can talk about all the different roles that you've served in at Vintage. I mean, it's been quite a few, mainly because this guy didn't know what he was doing at all, and we were just trying to figure it out as we go. But it was cool to see from our side of things. You know, Annabeth had to go through her own process, not being from New Orleans. I was from New Orleans as we came back pre-Katrina, and then to see how God broke her heart, we started to see the same thing with you guys. And it became something way deeper than just getting a seminary degree. It became, man, like we're enjoying this New Orleans Kool-Aid, and we're starting to get a little hooked on this. Y'all remember kind of anything that stuck out in regards to just God clarifying that call in New Orleans?
Well, I think what's funny is I was the one who first like brought it up. Like, we moved here and I hated it. And then I was the first one, like, I think Dustin, like, we almost got in a car accident because we were driving into Metairie. And I just looked at him and I was just like, you know, like, if God calls us here forever, like, I don't think that'd be like the worst thing. And his eyes like popped out of his head, because that was like the same year we moved here. And it was like right before Christmas that year.
So
and I don't know, it was just this like,
long,
wait, sorry, Annabeth, what'd you say?
But it didn't take too long then.
It really didn't. And I think it was just like, I had just this peace about it that just was like, I couldn't understand it. Like, yeah. Okay, like this might not just be 3 years. Like, it might be longer than that, and that's okay.
Yeah. So. No, and I think as we started, we had been enough and even had friends that I wanted to serve with us in New Orleans, but you could just see there wasn't that same passion calling for the city. for the church. And as that started to kind of bring clarity on your call, man, we rolled up our sleeves together in a number of different ways, in a number of different locations. I can't even remember all your titles: theology and training director, campus pastor, I mean, you name it. Dustin has served, except we've kept him away from our arts team. Like, we're not going to let him play trumpet. So
he has to sing a few times.
I try. Mark's
times.
almost let me.
Yeah, a few times. Anything Johnny Cash, that'll roll. So,
Good.
Dustin, talk a little bit, even in our journey. I mean, if I was to, back in 2009, 2010, if God were to whisper to me and say, you're not going to be the pastor forever here, pick the guy that's going to be the next pastor. I don't know if I would have had clarity to say Dustin Turner,
That hurts.
So,
that hurts.
In our journey, I mean, Brick wanted to be the next Louis Giglio for Canada. It didn't quite work out in that direction either. So, look, I think one of the things that is so important that we have at Vintage Church is our leadership pipeline. And it's a lot more organized now because you've helped us organize it. We're still trying to introduce this in Pittsburgh. But I think one of the reasons why you have clarity and even confidence and peace serving as the lead pastor of Vintage Church New Orleans is because of this pipeline journey that we took together really for 8 to 10 years. And man, you showed me a lot of grace. I think I showed you a lot of grace, and we just said, let's keep pursuing this sweet spot in ministry, where it's not even the sweet spot, right? It's the call of God. So talk a little bit about just that journey and how important that is, not just for ministers, right? For those who are in our church that just want to use their spiritual gifts for the kingdom of God.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things was, I mean, you said it, obviously, like, our pipeline's really organized now. And a lot of that, yeah, that's me, because I'm, uber organized. But I think that was still the case in the early days. We always talked about, a pipeline, but it was with you just a little more organic. But it still had some sort of structure to it. And I think the thing that helped me in my development into ministry, but also just anybody, is knowing what the next steps are and knowing where you're taking the next steps to, and so again, I mean, a lot of that is, I think some of that's trial and error. People try things, they do things. Like Rachel and I were literally just talking about this today, but you've got to figure out like what you're gifted at. You've got to figure out what you're passionate about. You've got to figure out what the needs are around you. And I honestly think that probably took me 2 or 3 years maybe to figure out before I ever got into any sort of like pipeline, Yeah. And so I think that's a big part of it, but I think the pipeline helps you figure those things out. And so as you're training, as you're already serving, that was one of the biggest things for me, is you don't wait. You jump in, and you're going to mess things up, and you're not going to do things perfectly. You're going to find out you like certain things and you don't like other things. But if you wait, you're not going to really figure out what's going on. I think it's in the experience that the Lord really begins to show you some things. And I mean, that's, we always joke about like me becoming, I mean, in 2009, 2010, you would have told me I was going to be the lead pastor. I wouldn't want that,
Yeah.
So, but I think it was the experiences from like, I don't know, 2015 to 2018 that helped get me to this place where I not only might have the ability to do it, but even have the desire to do it. And so I think that's what the pipeline does. It's like the pipeline puts you in experiences that help you begin to discern what you're gifted at, what you're passionate about. And then it helps give you the next steps that you need to get to where God's calling you. And I think we all need that, whether or not you call it a pipeline or not. We all need that to grow.
Yeah. And at the core of Vintage Church for us, this is one of the leadership pipeline is one of the steps of our discipleship pathway, our vintage pathway. Mm-hmm. And we have gather, we have connect, we have partner, we have lead, and we have send. And we're very strategic to see someone who comes to faith in Christ, connect in with our church, partner in with our church, grow in their leadership ability. And then send is not always, you got to move to Pittsburgh and go to another city. Send is, man, God's equipped me now through a leadership pipeline to be more intentional in sharing Jesus with my coworkers or my neighbors, or being sent to start a new vGroup or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's important to recognize that leading is not just in the church; it's also outside of the church. You know, we want to raise up good strong spouses, strong parents, strong bosses, strong employees, because I think the Bible has a lot to say about being a good leader in those environments as well. And the pipeline is just as important there as it is within the church.
Well, Rachel, let's talk a little bit about your calling in ministry in this season, and just share with us kind of what God has laid on your heart, what he's doing in your life, and where you're feeling him work right now.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, it's really just been about supporting Dustin a lot now that he has stepped into the lead pastor role. And whether that looks like, I mean, right now specifically, it looks a little differently, but whether it's just, you know, making sure that my kids and I are there on Sunday morning, like we're prompt, we're, you know, I'm in the service, supporting him, praying for him throughout the week. And I also feel like, it's with my kids too, you know, trying to raise them up to love Jesus. And, you know, I feel like that looks different with every season. And my kids are starting to get older now, and they are starting to kind of ask questions. And so I think, you know, when they're young and they're babies, it's kind of hard to, you know, kind of see where that's going to go. And then now that they're 5 and 8, like we pray every night. And Emmeline, our daughter, she like loves to pray, even though most of the time it's just, what does she say? It's typically just essentially like, have a good night's rest. Amen. Which is fine. Like, but it's just like.
It says pray to me. Wait, McCall doesn't say pray for me. She says, Mom and Dad, pray to me. Pray to me.
What are you teaching her?
Well, no. And also, she likes to say the end a lot instead of amen. Yeah. Like we're finishing a book or something.
The end. Amen. The end.
But it's just really like cultivating that in their heart right now, like to have like a very personal, like just conversation with God, like praying. It can just be that I have a good night's rest. Amen. Like, or tonight she said, love you, Jesus. The end. And so, like, I really feel like cultivating that with my children to have this desire. Like they don't know what to call it yet, but to have a desire to like have a relationship with Jesus down the road. And so I feel like that's a big part of my calling right now. And also I feel like encouraging women in the church, my friends especially, but also other ladies in the church. Like I just have a gift of encouragement, I guess. And so I was telling Dustin this actually earlier, like Monday is kind of my day to like check in on everyone. Yeah. And so like I'm normally texting people like all day Monday. Yeah. And just kind of like either a word of encouragement or a prayer, or just like, hey, how are you guys? Or how was the weekend? What can I be praying for this week? What's going on? And, or sending a verse or something, just those types of things, just to really encourage the ladies that are in my life.
Yeah.
So
Good. I think for the kids too, it's important that I think for us, and our kids are a little bit older than yours, not much, but for us, and with Rob being a lead pastor and Dustin, and it is a different role. And it's hard for other people to understand who haven't lived that role and been in that position. But I feel like for our kids too, we've tried to always bring them along in ministry with us.
yeah.
And of course, right now that looks different, but with coming to church and being a part of everything, just helping them to understand that this is not like dad's job and then home life.
Yeah.
Our life is that.
Like, it's all connected.
Yeah, and the fact that, we moved to New Orleans, and it wasn't initially to plant a church, but then that became our calling and what God kept us there for. And then here, God led us here to plant a church. And so with that, it's, we explaining to our kids, okay, well, why do we live here? Why are you going to school here? Why are we living in this neighborhood? Why are we, why is dad going to church? Why are we having services? Do you understand? Like, just bringing them along and helping them understand this is our family mission. It's not just dad's job. It's not just, he goes to work to do this. This is a lifetime thing. This is our family's calling. So
yeah. And I think that's something that we're really trying to incorporate now. Like, I always feel like, and we've talked about this with like, even with like vGroup stuff, like kids are not like a problem, right? But I feel like sometimes it seems like kids are a huge distraction, like when you're trying to do ministry or whatever, or you're trying to have like a conversation. And I feel like for a very long time, that was something like I wrestled with like, well, my kids have their place. And like, we're doing this, and like, they need to be a part of like what the kids are doing, but like not bringing them along to like things, like whether it's like serving or, because it would just be too hard, or it would be, people would probably think, oh, like those kids are so crazy or whatever. And so I think like that for a long time was just kind of how, like, at least I operated. Yeah. And I think recently I've just been encouraged by friends, and like, I think Brick and Sarah do this so well. It's just like bringing their kids everywhere, and their kids are just experiencing all of these things. And like, I want my kids to remember that too. Like, we included them in these parts of our lives, because it's like you said, like, it's not just dad's job, like, on a Sunday morning and that's it. Like, it's all of us together, living our purpose in this city, and with these people. Yeah. And so yeah.
Don't let Rachel fool you, by the way. She's a far better pastor than I am. She's the ultimate encourager. Like, I've never met somebody.
She is. She's always checking in on me.
More encouraging and reaching out. She reaches out to vintage people probably more than I do, which I don't even know if I want to admit that, but it's true. So she's just a great encourager.
Well, look, I'll say this, just kind of transitioning. I think one of the things that Annabeth and I knew as part of God's confirmation in our life to plant another church in another city was the fact that we were being sent by you, but we weren't really leaving you, that we were doing this together. And to know that sources of encouragement in our life for the last really 12, 13 years were going to roll with us and link arms with us, on top of some couples like the Englerts coming with us up here. And now we got Jake and Allie, and then joining up with so many others. I mean, it's been one of the reasons why we've been able to see God do what he's done, is we haven't come here alone. And we've been in each other's lives a lot. Dustin and myself and Brick and Sean, our movement board, we're together every month, just kind of somewhat it's counseling, somewhat it's work, and just kind of praying through different things, going through this COVID-19 season. But as we're now at this place where Vintage is really rolling in Pittsburgh and New Orleans, we're going to be introducing this weekend how we're going to collaborate even more together, and how we really believe this multi-city, multi-church movement of truth, love, and community can hopefully even spread if the Lord calls us to other cities to shine the light of Jesus. Dustin, as we kind of close, like what makes you excited? You know, like what's exciting for you thinking about like the future? And I know how much of a blessing it's been and how amazing it's been, but what's getting you excited about this new series and our partnership together?
Well, I think we're just getting started.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the thing is like the non-fun times are hopefully over, right? I mean, it's like the beginning time is always, there's difficulty in all of it, right? Yeah. But like getting things up and going are always kind of like some of the most difficult times and the most difficult things. And it's hard to look back and see, and it's hard to like get traction. And so I feel like what I'm excited about is we're at a place where both like things are going really well in Pittsburgh, things are going really well in New Orleans. There's challenges, but we're both at a really healthy place. And I feel like in this season, we're able to get a lot of momentum. And I think a lot of that is, it's like when we both have momentum and now it's collaborating and bringing like the two momentums together, which just creates more momentum. And I think that's what I'm excited about, you know. And
I've loved seeing Pittsburgh be so excited about New Orleans and vice versa. I mean, there's like a real friendship and partnership that goes way deeper than two lead pastors.
And most of them have never met each other.
No, they haven't.
Well, and
that's what's so cool.
I think the next boost of momentum will be Rachel and Sarah coming up here.
Yeah. Okay, great.
How many times have you been here, Dustin?
Come on, Dustin.
I've been like a few.
It's not been 10. It's like been 4.
I've been nada.
Well, I mean, those private jets are expensive.
I know. It's tough.
Hey, so look, we do love you. I think one of my favorite times since we've left Pittsburgh was since we left New Orleans, we decided to have a week vacation together, and our families got together with the Briquettos and the Englerts, and man, we just goofed off at the beach and had some fun together. And it really is. It's exciting. I love being hounded by people in Pittsburgh all the time saying, can we do a mission trip to New Orleans? And I know that happens from you guys too. And we're just getting started. Like Rachel and Annabeth, you just talked about it. Our kids, I really believe we've got to think in God's timeline, not our timeline. Yeah. I believe we're laying a foundation that our kids are really going to reap more of a harvest than we're ever reaping. And I think we've just got to be faithful. Anytime you build something or start something, it's never easy the early years. And we're still super young. We're still figuring this out together. But I truly believe our future together, it has very little to do with numbers and its impact for the kingdom of God, for the glory of God. And I think the best is yet to come with that. So, hey, thanks for joining us. And thanks for being a part of our night tonight. And hope the kids keep behaving themselves. We like sticking ourselves in a closet as far away from our kids during these interviews as possible. But
we lock the doors.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much. Can't wait to see you again. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Love you.